Welcome everybody to QUO Status, the podcast where Mars Vindicator and Queasy Crayfish say whatever the fuck they want. Just kidding, but not actually kidding. So this is QUO Status, although we will also refer to it as Status Quo episode 31. So we've had a great run with this show. It's been 30 episodes, but we just kind of decided to change the format a little bit. So before I get too far, let me go ahead and say, as always, I'm joined by my co-host,
Crayfish Queasy.
And that's right. And, what we want to do is just kind of come off the cuff, say a little bit more about what we want to say, talk about topics truthfully in depth, and just not even worry about all the riff-raff with the game world and, the Polygon articles about why, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an analogy about the existential, living circumstances of millennials, hypothetically, if they were alive in the 1930s. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody wants to listen to that shit. So, yeah, we just want to talk about still game-related topics, but in the way that we want to talk about them. So, sorry if you came here for flake news. Take your ass to GameSpot. There's plenty of it there. We won't be doing that, and we won't have 4 topics today. We're just going to go off the cuff. We're going to kind of start with, with a little set piece and just go. So before I introduce the topic, what we're going to talk about, Quiz, do you have any intro words to say?
I'm sorry to see the flake news go, but I mean, like you said, just go to GameSpot.com, and there you have it. Go to IGN, and you'll get all your updates on the latest, season of Westworld, and Sabrina, Daredevil was canceled. You name it. I mean, it's all there.
And nothing about video games. Right?
You don't even have to count the money. It's all there.
See. Well, so and I just want to say, don't think status quo is over, ladies and gentlemen. We're just evolving here. We're just doing something a little different here. So today's topic is going to be Mars Vindicator's quitting video games. Haha, again, just kidding. But, I've kind of been looking at a lot of things here. I questioned my religion 12 years ago. Still haven't questioned why exactly do I play video games, So, just kind of been sitting up here thinking about it. What are these things? Why do we decide that we have to, sit down and spend hours of our day, in another world? What is it that makes us want to play these things? I know I don't hate these things. I play them too much. But sometimes I just kind of wonder, why? Why exactly do I want to play these things so much? And, the short answer is, well, they're fucking fun. But the long answer is probably just that, that's what I grew up doing. I am a lifelong gamer. I've called myself that on a couple of other platforms. Got a lot of stories about games. But at the end of the day, I've never been able to go into my apartment office and say, hey, let me tell you the story about the time my dad didn't buy me Tekken 3 instead of paying you my rent. You know what I'm saying? So it's not to say that, games have to be as, as valuable as money per se. But, I kind of really got on this topic when I was thinking about listening to a lot of the stuff about Red Dead Redemption 2. And we've talked a lot about that, but it just kind of got to a point where it just seemed like all of the cool things to do in that game were things that were, pretty relatively accessible, things that you could do in real life, especially if you live in America. Nobody's stopping you from hunting. Nobody's stopping you from shaving your beard. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's stopping you from going to a bar. You know what I'm saying? So why is it that we had to do these things in a game? What was it that made that so fun? And why is it that we don't want to do these things in real life? You know what I'm saying? Why don't we just get up and go out and shoot a deer? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you can do it.
Because all the people that think that's so cool, I mean, not all, not all, but I feel like they're just, they're the ones that just never would, they wouldn't have the courage or they wouldn't have the mental capacity to, work with somebody on how to operate a firearm, properly. Like they wouldn't be able to like go through the procedure of like getting, dressed up in, camo and, walking through the forest for 4 hours and, being quiet and listening and setting up a tree stand and, bringing the ammunition and, being patient. Like there's just no way. Like they need instant gratification, but at the same time they want to feel like they're doing this like, this very like skilled craft, I think that, and so to people that don't even shave, people that I guess there's like a level of escapism to it where it's like, oh, I want the handlebar mustache, even though I could give it to myself in real life, I'm too much of a, a baby or just too worried about social conventions to be able to do it, to myself. So I'm going to, do it in the game, or, I'm too scared to pick up a gun and go hunt a deer. So I'm just going to do it in the game, and it'll take me, a fraction of the time, and I won't have to learn, any actual, like, deep knowledge about the use of the weapon or, proper procedures or safety or, anything like that, or even have to talk to anyone. I don't even have to talk to anyone. I don't have to go, to the gun store and look like a fool because I don't know anything about it. Like there's just... I feel like it's just like a way to do these things without having to actually do them. And it's kind of pathetic.
No, I mean, I 100% definitely do agree. And that's because that's just what I found myself doing. When I was a kid, I think that's kind of why some of the most interesting games to me were things like, things like Mortal Kombat or Sonic, because there was just no way you could kind of really recreate that in real life. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of, extended on. Even if you were to go at something, like Grand Theft Auto, right? Like most of the things that we were yelling about with those games that was so cool, you just couldn't do for. You can't just, you can, but you kind of can't just get on top of a building and start sniping people. You know what I'm saying? It's fucking ridiculous. It's like please, no one ever do that. Okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was like in Red Dead, those weren't the things that people were talking about. It was like the wilderness, and it's like, come on, like most of us don't live in New York City, you know what I'm saying? So like, get the hell up and take your ass outside, you know what I'm saying? Look at the sunset, it's beautiful. And yeah, people just, they do everything is instant and that's another thing too that I feel like I've noticed a lot about gamers and about just this whole pop culture thing is, I understand there's some things that have been going on for a long time, and that's why we give them certain respect, certain types of respect, like for example art, right? Like there's part of the reason why collecting art is different than collecting video games is because it's been around for a long time. People just respect it, right? And I'm gonna be the first one to tell you that I think collecting things or doing things because it's been around for a long time is stupid, right? Or respecting it because it's been around for a long time is stupid. That doesn't matter. But I think there's also a certain accessibility to something like art, right? Or for example, like a certain, even if you can maybe talk about how these things, actually aren't objective, there's still kind of this general acceptance that like, if you go to somebody's house and they have like, 20 gold bars, that's going to be cool. You know what I'm saying? Just buzz my eyes. I got 20 bars of gold. You know what I'm saying? This is fucking awesome. But you go to somebody's house and they have like 20 3DOs, you know what I'm saying? Or 20 copies of Snatcher on the Sega CD. There's just not that many people who are gonna find that to be cool. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Granted, yeah, there are those of us in the game world who understand that Snatcher is, used as a $500 game. But having 20 of them, like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the most you can get out of that is wow. Like what else do you get from having 20 of those? You know what I'm saying? What else do you get from having a complete NES collection? Wow. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, and then even that too, even those wows you're only going to get from a small fraction of people who know about that stuff. I mean, show that to your grandma, show it to your cousin James, you know what I'm saying? Show it to your, Uncle Rick. They're just going to be like, well, what the fuck is this?
Or
you know what I'm saying?
feign interest.
You said, or who?
Or they'll just feign interest. Well,
exactly.
That was I always kind of prided myself on being like this like Sonic historian, where like I knew a lot about like the history of Sonic, and I knew all the games or all the old games and even like the obscure ones, and all the different TV series and comic book iterations and everything like that. But then like I found that like while it was cool to me that I knew all of this stuff, when I would tell people like, oh, originally that was in Sonic the comic, and and that was episode, that was issue number 75, and then they got a new cover artist, and like when you tell people that, like their eyes just glaze over and they just look at you like,
yeah, right.
What are you talking about? So yeah, like there's not to say that like something can't be valuable to just you and that not be legitimate, but it's just like, I mean, of what use really is that knowledge, and I feel like when you're looking at like works of art, if I have 30, a collection of 30 fine works of art or something like that, I mean, like works of art are supposed to be like sensual expressions of like human experience and everything like that, whereas like Red Dead Redemption 2, is it that? No, like I I feel like you can't compare like a corporate product, even though there is art within Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I feel like there is art in like the person that designed the landscape or whatever. I would be very content with saying that they produced some art, and or people that did the character designs or whatever, or even the voice acting, like that was a work of art. But overall, is the product itself a work of art? No, I don't think it is, and I don't think that it really can be. In the same way, there's no like, like there's no like corporate, classical paintings or anything like that. Like it has to be the work of an individual.
See, yeah, and I think that is a really good point. It's not like Sony was producing Mona Lisas and selling them, mass producing them and selling them. Because I mean that's what you get with something like Red Dead Redemption. I mean the end focus of that product, regardless of what all went into it, was to make money, and if no money is made on it, then it's considered a failure, so it's considered nothing, you know what I'm saying? And yes, a lot of art sells for a lot of money, but that's never was typically never the objective, and then at the same time you take something like gold bars, right? Something like worth collecting. I mean, it's going to be valuable. You know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't matter where you take it, doesn't matter where you bring it, that's valuable. Like, there's a large number of games that you can't even sell to GameStop. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like it's just.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a large number of games that are without value. Like they are value. I have a copy of NBA 2K15 on my PlayStation 4 shelf, and like I have contemplated numerous times just throwing it away because I can't trade it in. I'm never going to play it because it's outdated and, it's like pointless. Yeah. And like, you can't sell it to anyone. Nobody wants it. So what am I going to do with it? Like, I'll just throw it away. The only value that it could possibly have is the fact that it has Kevin Durant in an Oklahoma City Thunder jersey on the cover. And even that, it's like, well, like there's a million pictures of him in that. So like, who cares?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this because this is kind of something we're going to talk about more in depth later. Today, I think we want to focus more on, the infantilization of adults these days and why do we play video games. But yeah, you talk about something like the internet. Yeah, like there's, like you said, there's a billion pictures of KD probably in his college uniform. You know what I'm saying? Because like,
Yeah,
this is,
Texas.
like back in those days, like if Jordan was on the cover of this game with hair, it would have just gotten a little bit of value by the time, he was winning the championships. But who gives a damn about that shit now? Because like you just get on the internet, you just find whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? So you can't even attribute that much value to a lot of these things. And that's kind of why, even when I look at things like Snatcher, for example, like, where does this value even really come from? You know what I'm saying? Is it the lack of copies? And yeah, I get that may be a part of it, but are there really that many Snatcher fans that really want to play those games? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, I got you know what I'm saying? It's not Super Mario Brothers 3. You know what I mean? I love it. It's a great game, but like, is there that many people that want to play it to justify it being $500 used? You know what I'm saying? Or like Burning Rangers on the Saturn.
Yeah,
right.
Disc only, $500.
Yeah, like that is absurd. Like, I mean, the game wasn't that great when it was released, and it shows like in the value of the game. I mean, the game, it's you can buy the Japanese copy for $30. So yeah, I come over your house and you have all these games. Like, I get it, different strokes for different folks. Different strokes for different folks, but it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of hard for me to see that stuff sometimes and just see, the point in all of this, cause again, it's like, I don't know if there are many other kinds of hobbies or collections that you can do this with. Like for example, like, if you're collecting, I don't know, like typically if you're like collecting something, at the very least, you get the joy out of the fact that, like, if you have that thing, that's the only way you can have that thing. You know what I'm saying? But it's just absurd to me when people want to go and talk about buying a 3DO to play Street Fighter 2 on that. You know what I'm saying? Because you can play that game on every damn system. You can download it in 2 seconds and play it on a computer. So why would you want to play it on this old piece of hardware that's probably going to fail on you after 4 uses?
I don't know. I mean, and I remember when we were like doing a lot of like Hyper Evo stuff, or like early in the going, and like I had all these ideas, like, oh, I'm gonna record myself playing this game or that game, and I'm gonna do it on the actual Dreamcast. I'm gonna hook up the N64 and play Perfect Dark or whatever on there, and with the N64 controller, and it'll be legit and everything, and like when you really think about it, it's like, okay, so like, what are we accomplishing here? Like, well, it's really hard to hook it up. It's like, it's really hard to record the N64 with a capture card, because like you can't display the signal on an HD TV while you're also piping it into your computer, and like it's just like, so you have to like get some workaround where you have like a powered converter that's going to convert HDMI and all this stuff, and then so what do? You get the signal, finally you're able to record it. Like it's in like 240p or something like that, like like, yeah. It doesn't even look good. And then, you record it, you don't even remember how to play the game, so you're not even that good. You do some commentary, you're just like, oh, I'm playing this on a legit N64, and you post a video, and no one watches it. And the video's in 1080, but it doesn't matter because the game looks like terrible, just looks terrible anyway. Like, what have I accomplished? Is I went through all this effort, bought all these, this equipment and stuff, and, was ripping my hair out trying to get it to work, and finally got it to work, and I get, 10 views or something like that, Like, well,
exactly.
And I mean, I know if you're Metal Jesus or one of those guys or something like that, or, you're some big streamer, you might be able to do that with greater results, but well, that's not, that's like such a small fraction of people. And, most people that are into this sort of, like, people just do that. I mean, I mean, even to an extent, this podcast, it's like, here we are, we're talking about this stuff, but I mean, like, I mean, it's really more for just us. I feel like at the end of the day, it's just like what's the word, catharsis.
Shit, there it is. I didn't even know that. See, something new there for me. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yeah, like, honestly, it is for us. This is, a cool digital way for me to document these rants and these feelings that I had about certain things in my life. I mean, it's not to say that I'll never come back and never ever try to play these things again, but it takes some point it's just hard for me to justify this stuff. And I think some of the points you made are just so true, because even that, I mean, even if you do in this day and age get 15,000 views on every video, what does that even really do for you? A lot of us still try to look at that stuff like it's not 2008 anymore. 10,000 views is barely anything. So, you get those views, and then, oh, okay, I'll put some ads on it. And then you get some ads, and next thing you know, you get a YouTube check for, $7.24 and
a month.
Exactly, a month. And then you call, because you're such a fat ass that you didn't shat all over your bathroom. So then you call somebody to replace your bathtub because you shat all over it. And they're like, oh, we don't have anybody to do that because nobody wants to be a fucking plumber. You know what I'm saying? Or a fucking bath installer. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody wants to play, Blast Blue Cross tag battle at the tournaments. So, sorry, nobody can take out the trash. You know what I'm saying? It's just nuts. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get too high on a soapbox, because I'm not about to do those careers. Not because I disrespect them, just because I've just taken such a different path in life at this point. But I mean, yeah, I just, I mean, it's just such a crazy time that we live in with this stuff. And I mean, just before that, I got on YouTube and saw a video of this dude talking about Walgreens sucks because they don't have the Funko Pops that I want. It's like, really? It's a goddamn convenience store. So you're supposed to go there and get a chocolate bar, the newspaper, and a Gatorade. And maybe some medicine. But you're pissed off because they don't have, the maskless Hugh Jackman, Wolverine Funko Pop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like when you get to the point where it's like Funko Pop hunting, like, oh, here's another installment of my Funko Pop hunt, and we're gonna go into Kohl's and J.C. Penney and see what their Funko Pop selection is like, and go into the XYZ mom and pop store and see what they got in there. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, and what, 1.4 million views.
Right.
With the slick intro, and it's just, yeah, it's the dismal tide.
I'm telling you, I mean, this is honestly, it's kind of become more of a rant for me than it has been an actual topic, but I don't care because it's cool status. But, I guess, even just to kind of bring it back personally, I mean, I think another reason that I realized for myself that made me want to even play games or get into comic books or some of these things was to prove my level of fanboyism. Like, I had this thing where I didn't like telling people that I was an X-Men fan because I hadn't read enough of the X-Men, but then it's like, well, so then I read more X-Men and I had more knowledge, and then it's like, well, I mean, I'm not about to get a cash prize for this. You know what I'm saying? like what is it? What now? So now I can go into the comic book store and get respect from the guy and the girl behind the counter. Like, awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like what do I truly get for that? I get nothing. You know, what do I get? You know, even Simon was like, "Oh, I'm a big Sonic fan. I was always a big Sonic fan, so I think it'd be cool to have all of his games complete in box." Well, as we know, Sonic's, you know, his win to loss ratio is like 10-84. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta have 84 shitty ass games sitting on my shelf, complete in box, that I hunted down at game stores in the backwoods of Iowa because I couldn't find them here. And then I invite, you know, my mother's second cousin over here, and I'm, look at these. I got Sonic Triple Trouble on Game Gear complete in box. Again, I'm not gonna get a cash prize.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And then the kicker was like, I mean, even as myself, like, you know, like now I go to somebody's house and, you know, you're that much of a fan that you bought all that stuff. At that point, to me, at this point, it's just, I mean, I don't want to call it weird, but it's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? Like why? You know what I mean? Like, that game is not even good. You know what I'm saying?
Sonic Triple Trouble, Tails Sky Patrol, Sonic Schoolhouse.
All these Game Gear games, you know, it's just, I mean, yeah, like Tails Adventures is like $150 complete. Like,
yeah, you know, it like, think of how much like groceries you could buy with that.
Exactly. And you know, before I would have made the argument like, well, I'll use up all the groceries in 2 weeks, but you know, those Tales Adventures will last forever. But like, but why? You know what I'm saying? Like still, like, yes, it's tangible and you'll have it forever, but like, you gonna pick that motherfucker up and play it, you know what I'm saying, in 2039? Oh, also, shit, I mean, you know.
If you don't have it, you won't die.
Exactly. But you will die if you don't buy some food in a much shorter time than, you know, 20 years from now. Cause yeah, and then there was that too. I used to think like, oh, okay, so I buy all this stuff, you know, because, you know, I'll show it to my kids and they'll know what it was like. And it's like, nobody gives a fuck about the dark ages. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be 2000, you know, whatever, you know, 27. And my kid's going to be in the back seat with a Switch 2, you know what I'm saying, playing some wild shit. And I'll be like, look at this. It's a Game Boy with no light on it. And he'll just be like,
the worm light.
Right. And I'll be like, oh, we got to get some batteries. He'll just be like,
what's a battery?
Yeah, like you know? Fuck this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you're a kid in the 90s and, you know, the damn Super Nintendo just came out, but your dad wants to show you his, you know, ball stick. You know what I'm saying? Oh, just throw it up in there and there's some balls attached to it and it's going to go in the hole. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to play Donkey Kong Country. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. You know?
Yeah, like when I moved out, like I had all these boxes that like my dad had of like old. He had like some of it was like my stuff like when I was a kid, and some of it was like his stuff like mixed in. And he had this old like it was some old like football game that was like it was like a handheld thing, and you know it was just basically just like lights and stuff like that. Like it wasn't, you know, it was just like different things would light up and. You know, and it, I mean, it was not sophisticated at all. It didn't even have like a screen or anything like that. But it was just some like basic, you know, like football game that like you might have played with, you know, in like the 70s or something like that, or even before that. And like, yeah, like I look at that thing and I'm just like, wow, what a boring piece of, you know, like this is just like it has no interest to me whatsoever,
right?
You know, and like there's all kind of stuff in there. He has some old like, you know, like Clark Bar wrapper or something like that with like Shaq on it or something like that from like the 90s. I'm just like, oh, like you saved this like candy bar wrapper, you know, because it has Shaq on it, right. You know. And I'm definitely not one of these people that's just like, oh, you know, like forget the past, like forget tradition, you know, forget all this stuff. But I mean, like, you know, like tradition is like one thing, but like just saving objects that are like ultimately meaningless, I think is kind of stupid, because it's not even like that was just stuffed in a box. It's not like something I found like, in his like bedroom closet or something like that, after he dies or something, and it's like, oh, this was this thing that he was holding on to that meant so much or something like that.
Right.
It's just that it was just like there, and like forgotten and everything. And I'm like, yeah, so I mean, what's the point of me like saving, some like Happy Meal toy of, because I had those. Remember when like Sonic was in the Happy Meal toys, and I had like the little like Knuckles thing, and it was, like you could like run it across the table and he would spin around, and like, oh, save that, and then it's like you just forget about it, and find it in 30 years, and oh boy, you look at it,
exactly,
neat.
Right.
Remember that? Okay, put it back.
Exactly. No, yeah, because that's kind of, when I was looking at my game collection, like I still have my Streets of Rage 2, right? And I still have my Sega Genesis. So I think it's dope. That'll be dope. When my kids are like, what's this? And I'm like, look, like this is my first shit ever. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling them this thing that, like it's so deep from me. Then I think it's kind of interesting, right? But then if like then next to that, I'm like, oh, and this is Truxton, a super rare Genesis game. I bought it from a trailer park in Canton in 2009 for $600. Like, why your mom was pregnant for you, like pregnant with you, and I didn't, take her to the store to buy her some, pickle sandwich that she wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just absurd. You know what I mean? Like, at that point, it's absurd. Like, really, Dad? Like, you was buying $600 Genesis games, like, 20, 30 years after the fact, that, like, that you have also now just sat on a shelf, and now we're just in a box. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, saving wrappers.
Well, so what is it about, like, the collecting of video games that is worse than like collecting like albums or something like that, or collecting paintings or whatever it might be? Like what makes it, or yachts or something or cars even or something? I mean, like why is it that collecting video games has, because it definitely had, like we were saying, like infantilization, it definitely has this kind of like it's almost, it takes like a certain level of like adulthood to be able to like ascertain, oh, this game, goes for this much, during this time period because of this, and they only printed this many copies, and there's only this many in the world, and this retailer sold them for blah 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 blah, know all these like random facts, and find a great price for Burning Rangers complete in box and put it on your shelf. Like, it takes like a certain level of like knowledge and expertise and stuff to be able to do that, but it's like at the service of this like pointless, like obsolete corporate product.
Right.
That just makes it like pathetic for some reason.
Well, honestly, I think the thing right now, okay, I think one of the things that, plays heavily into this is the internet, because the internet has honestly ruined a lot of things, right? So actually, I don't think collecting video games is worse than like, albums or pretty much anything the hell else. Mostly because of the fact that what the internet has done has just made it to where it's really just a money game, right? Like, I think before, like for example, like if you were collecting cards in the 90s, I mean, sure, there were like these kind of methods to get things, but for the most part, like it was like, get these cards, buy a pack of them, and then, if you get something dope, you get something dope, and there was no way you could kind of like get what you wanted, and then if you did want to go buy, a single card, you were pretty much stuck to just buying things in your immediate area, or if you took a trip somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's kind of what made the collecting dope, because then it's like, I come to your house, I see a collection, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I got this one in this pack, I got this one here. there was like this real rarity to it, and it wasn't just purely a money game. And like now, I feel it's a money game because like you kind of like people kind of have the same shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like your Sega CD collection isn't shit if you don't have like Snatcher, Final Fight, Sonic CD. It's like these same games. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, get the Sega CD, you have to have these games. Like these are the ones. And if you have enough money to buy it, somebody's selling it on eBay and you can get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was always cool to like only collect locally, but at the end of the day, like it just didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Because then you'll get on eBay and or like somebody will see the collection and it's still just bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So I have a little bit more respect to the people who only collect locally or only collect the things that they just find randomly. But that's what makes it kind of trash. And so it's the same thing kind of with albums. Like for the most part, you can just kind of if it's online, you can find it. I think the cool thing with albums, though, which kind of makes it a bit cooler, is that, like now, like, right, like in today's world, you have like limited run games and they'll make like indie games, right? That shit's kind of cool, because you can kind of get that sort of vibe out of music, right? Like there's this guy that made this record about Ypsilanti, right? It's like this weird ass record. It only was sold locally. So like, if you're some record collector in Montana, like it's really out of the box for you to have that. You know what I'm saying? And then like you're probably just not gonna even find that on eBay because it was such a small thing. So that kind of thing is really cool. But something like, for the most part, every single game in like the NES collection was sold in every state in America, right? So like, there's no like, oh, this was only in this area, or this was only here or whatever. I mean, you can kind of get that in games a little bit, but just not to the extent that you can get it, I think, in some other kinds of collections. I mean, at this point, if I'm gonna collect anything at this point, it's gonna be fucking artifacts, okay? Like, I'm about to fucking go to, Peru and jump in a fucking temple and find some shit that nobody else has found. Because otherwise, like, what's the point?
I'm going to collect Fabergé eggs.
Wait, what is that?
Like those, like, golden eggs with, like, gemstones in them and painted all crazy and stuff, Fabergé eggs.
Oh, damn. Well, yeah, those wouldn't be bad. I mean, they would be.
No, I mean,
not really.
It's fantastic. It's the kind of thing Michael Jackson would probably buy.
Exactly. Because again, like with those things, what you get is like, I feel like with those things, there may be like, oh, you got to get a Fabergé crafted by Hans Walsdorf. Like there may be that thing there a little bit. There may be like a couple of highly influential Fabergé egg crafters, right? But for the most part, you're probably going to go to somebody's house and they're going to have this weird Fabergé egg collection that you just have no idea about. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh man,
what?
That's just beautiful. So he's just not expecting it at all. You just walk in the door and, have you noticed my Fabergé egg collection?
Exactly, right, yeah. And you're like, no, and he starts telling you some story about how it came from, Kazakhstan or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you don't get that with video games, right? Like, you go to somebody's house and it's like, man, I got Chrono Trigger, and it's like, it's a fucking cool kids game. That's why it's whack.
And Mark Elliott was mentioning this. Well, I think maybe you brought it up. I don't remember, but I remember us talking about it. How these games always just have shit all over them too.
that too.
Just like physically, like they're just physically usually in poor condition. Like for me, like that's. I have this thing about buying like new games. Like if I'm gonna buy a game, I usually like to buy it new. I don't usually like to buy used stuff, just because like it'll just smell weird, or it'll just like it's got scratches on it, or there's like the book will be wrinkled up if there even is one, or it's got some GameStop sticker on it, or when you peel it off and it leaves the glue everywhere. or it was left in direct sunlight and it's faded.
Somebody
there's
smoked all over it.
Yeah, or I mean, there's just shit all over it sometimes. There's just weird, like...
It's crud.
Yeah, it's just all over it for some reason, especially with cartridges. They had all those little, like, creases and cracks and crevices in them, and there'd just be all this stuff built up in there, and it's like, I go out and spend, because I've done that before. I'd go on like GameStop and I'm like, oh, I bought 6 games or whatever for $20, and you bring them home and put them on the shelf and they just look bad. Like they just look bad up there.
Right.
Next to my PS4 collection, everything's like brand new and shiny and taken care of, and and right above it I got some copy of Metal Gear Solid 4 where like covers all ripped up and. Like how did they even do that? They like take the cover out and like just grind it on the floor and like what is going on?
Yeah, I mean shit, probably. Yeah, exactly. Just I mean they just because and that's because a lot of these things were they were owned by kids or they're just owned by even if they are owned by adults. You just it's just some shit. I don't give a damn about that. And little do you know this is a copy of Albert Odyssey, you know what I mean, and now it's worth $80,000, and and then you buy it off eBay off some weird ass dude, and then the case is cracked, the disc has a scratch on top, you know what I'm saying? It's just. And then you making a YouTube video like, finally got a copy of Albert Odyssey, a Holy Grail Saturn title. We're gonna check it out when it's just go total, I just want to show you guys the game. It's like, just miss me with that shit.
Unboxing. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like, because it is just like children's stuff at the end of the day.
Right.
I mean, that's, yeah. Especially, especially because you've talked about this before, like the Nintendo collecting, like fetish that so many people have, where it's like, oh, I got 17 different, colored Game Boys, and I've got, all the limited edition. What was the Delta Airlines N64 or whatever, like some
right, yeah.
bizarre thing, and it's just, I don't know, and it's like, Nintendo stuff especially, I think, has this very, like, childish kind of thing to it, because, it's supposed to appeal to children, obviously, it's not like that's a problem, but I think, like, when adults are collecting it, And I think it's just like, yeah, it's just kind of like there's things I'd rather be an expert at, and I've talked about this before, but like there's the Pokemon Go like community around where I live, where there's like one guy who's like dictating what everyone can do, and he makes sure the gyms are certain colors at certain times of the day, and if they're not, then he'll like mess with you and he'll kick you out of the gyms, and he'll target you specifically and post the angry stuff in the discords, and and I'm just like, this guy is like in his 40s and like spending all this time and effort
in his 40s
playing Pokemon Go.
I thought you were gonna say he was like 24.
No, he's in his 40s.
My
and
God.
Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, exactly, and it's like, does this guy know how to like cook a good meal for himself? Does this guy know how to like like clean up his house? Does this guy know how to like, I don't know, take out a loan, or or like hammer a nail, or like anything, any kind of like practical skills, or does this guy know how to like shop for himself, or navigate the streets, or just like anything like just practical or useful. Well, yeah, but it's like, he's got so much time and energy and knowledge invested in Pokemon Go, and he's spending money to trade for, I got to trade for the regionals, and I know some guy in Hong Kong who's gonna trade me I've got a go-between that's going to drop off Rayquaza from Hong Kong or something like that. It's just like, and I'm paying him $500 and like, it's just absurd.
He's really paying somebody $500?
I don't know. I'm just making stuff up.
Well,
I've heard of people doing that. There are people that will sell. Well, I know like funny story. When they put Mewtwo into regular raid battles, I did like 3 of those like with some friends of mine, and the second one that I did, I got a 100% IV Mewtwo out of it, and apparently that's like ultra rare. And there was some guy on like Instagram or something posted that it took him like 400 raids to get a 100% Mewtwo or some absurd number. And he's like, and I'm just thinking, like, first of all, like, he hasn't even been in the raids that long to where,
right.
Like, how did you even participate in that many raids without, like, you must have been paying all this money for, like, raid passes.
Probably
or had all these accounts and everything. So it's like you're sitting up here, and the people were selling them too. They were trading them. They would like sell, certain Pokemon, they had certain CPs and IVs and everything, even though it like randomizes it when you trade them. And, people would sell stuff like that for like at least $100, I think. They'd sell like rare stuff or regional stuff. And people would like literally, spend money for, like a digital representation, and not even like it's not even like the full-fledged Pokemon game, this is Pokemon Go. Like this is just some like watered down digital representation on your smartphone, some little sprite of, a Mewtwo, and it has some numbers over its head that mean something to you.
Right.
And you're spending all your money on that. Meanwhile, you don't know how to, like, grill a steak or something. I mean, meanwhile, you don't know how to, brew your own cup of coffee or, do dishes or, it's like just, you come home to your ratty apartment and it's, got dust everywhere and, dirty dishes in the sink and you got, 6 piles of dirty clothes on the floor and, cat piss everywhere and, who knows.
Right. Yeah, I mean.
But you got that 100% IV Mewtwo.
100% IV Mewtwo. I mean, man, like I tell you the truth, like it's just so absurd to me how much people will pay for this digital stuff. Because like we're going through that now with Pokemon Go. Adults are doing that, but I mean like Fortnite, these kids. It just, buy this for me, buy that for me. I want Fortnite credit. I mean, like paying money for like a digital item in like a fake game. It's just
that won't even exist in 10 years.
Yeah, like it does not even exist. Well, that, yeah, now, but then, yeah, and then exactly, you're right. Yeah, like for sure, that like this will definitely be gone in 10 years from now. And I mean, people spend money on hobbies all the time. Sometimes people, I'm going to play tennis, and they go out and buy a bunch of tennis rackets and shit, and they go to tennis class and do all this thing, and it just doesn't pan out. Like, I get that and I hear that, but at the very least, you kind of get this actual real life tangible experience from it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, this isn't some guy. I'm not some guy who like hates video games and I'm talking shit about. I mean, I'm a lifelong, long time video game player. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's wild. It's definitely wild.
Well, what we're saying is the internet ruined everything. I mean, not just video games, but I mean everything. But I mean, just in the context of video games. I mean, of course, the internet is good for many things and ease of communication and all that stuff. But I mean, when you get right down to it, like just the fact that a game can be considered like subpar or lacking in features or mediocre because it doesn't feature like online multiplayer.
Right.
Or I mean, just like I said, like I mean, the new Call of Duty, like I literally couldn't play the multiplayer anymore because everyone was trying to be an internet star.
Right.
Like you go and play that multiplayer, and it's like here's some guy who's uses snipers only on inappropriate maps, and every time you see him, he's trying to do some sneaky move or something, and and then here's this other guy who it's day one, and he's got like a diamond encrusted machine gun, and he's 10th prestige, and just like what is going on here? Oh, here's this other guy who's being a tryhard, and who's this his name in the game is twitch.tv/such and such, and he's trying to get views or something, streaming right now or something, and right. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I can't enjoy myself. Like I can't just get on here and enjoy myself because I feel like I'm obligated to try to like perform at a high level, even though there's literally zero reward for it.
Right. Sheesh. Yeah, I mean, man, it's just absurd. And then like that's literally like all the rest of the words I have for it. Like it is just absurd. I mean, I still like video games. I still think that there's some fun to be had and just kind of having that pastime with your friends. I mean, inviting 4 people over to sit up and play Smash and get drunk and eat pizza. Like that's wonderful. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it honestly just goes a little too deep, so. Well, this has been QUO Status 1. We will continue this because we have a lot more of this shit to say about video games, the current culture. And it won't all be negative stuff. I mean, I might get on here and tell you how dope Tekken is. You know what I'm saying? So don't get too discouraged. Come back and listen. But we'll probably be saying fuck a lot more. So, get ready for it. This is Mars Vindicator, everybody.
And Queasy Crayfish.
And we're out.